So this book is full of historical anachronisms. We're going to go into three more, and they have to do with Mecca, they have to do with the qibla, and they also have to do with the prophets. Huge problems. You're going to see why. Stay tuned.
Well, hello everyone. This is Fadi, and this is another episode of this video series on historical anachronisms that are found in the Quran. I'm hoping that you have enjoyed everything that has been published to date, and I'm hoping that you have even tried to use it with your Muslim friends, in a way, of course, to try to help them realize that there are errors. We're not talking just linguistic errors. We're not talking about theological errors. We're not talking about corrections that are made. We're talking about factual errors, historical errors, that no divine source should have made such errors, because even those who are hostile to Christianity, by the way, have confirmed certain historical events that the Quran somehow either denies or brings up other sources that are not reliable. All that to say is that by the time we finish this series, you will have enough of those examples to utilize in your ministry. And if you're a Muslim watching this, you would have enough evidence to cause you to leave Islam and come to Jesus. And that's our hope. With me here, of course, in studio to continue along the line of these evidences that we're presenting to you and historical problems, our dear friend and brother in the Lord, Dr. J. Smith. Dr. J, welcome back.
Thank you. Always good to be back with you.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to now move in some geographical problems that are in the Quran. Again, these are material that we have actually gone over in our external historical critique, but these are also internally historical problems as well. So let's go back to the slide again. We're on number 8 now, the 8th historical anachronism, and it's looking at the Quran's geographical locations. You know what I'm going to talk about. Many people probably do, but there are many who probably have never heard this. The Quran itself has 65 geographical references. Only 9 places are named, mostly referring to people who live in places, geographical locations. Ad, this reference to the people of Ad. This is the biblical Uz. 23 times you have reference over and over again that this prophet is having contact with these people from Ad. Look at the map there. You can see where Ad is. It's way up in what is today Jordan. Even more than that, 24 times it refers to these people from Thamud, who are the Nabateans. Again, from Jordan, around Petra. These are those who are the cut dwellers in mountains. They cut these beautiful buildings that you see all over Petra. These are the ones cut out of sheer rock. Amazing, some of the greatest made by men institutions. The Thamud are the people that are referred to. 7 times it refers to the people from Midian, who in the biblical context are Midianites. Now look and see where they are on the map. And you'll notice they must be important if he's spending that much time with them. Certainly they are important, because 24 times, 23 times, 7 times, they're way up in the north. Look where Mecca is. Mecca's way down there.
Exactly.
Where the red arrow is.
We're talking hundreds of miles away.
600 miles.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Way too far. Now, if you might say, okay, he had casual contact with them. No, then why is he referred to over and over again? 24, 23, 7 times. All the time he's having contact with them, which these are daily contacts.
Exactly.
How do you go from Mecca all the way up 600 miles to the people from Ad and then return back the same day on camelback?
That's right. I mean, unless Muhammad lived there all of his life, then I would buy that.
There you go. So it's obviously whoever wrote the Quran was not referring to Mecca. This was not about Mecca. We now know why, because Mecca was not in existence until at least the 8th century, maybe the late 7th century at the earliest, probably 697. At least that's what we're finding on the inscription outside of Taif. So there you can see this is an internal problem, a real problem. It is a historical anachronism because, geographically speaking, this place didn't exist. Let's go to the next one. Let's keep it right up there. Number 9. And when you look at all these different prophets that are going up, Adam and Eve, Seth, Ishmael, these are prophets that are being buried according to the traditions. It says very clearly that they're buried in Mecca.
By the way, people ask, where is the reference to that? I got some notifications about that. And of course, I know you have a reference or two for this. Where can they go to find?
These are all in the literature. There's many, many references. There's certainly a lot of references. And we could do that. And when we write this up, and I don't know if you know, we're getting published now. This is all going to be published. We have all the reference for every one of these. But we don't put these on the slides because it would fill up half the page, because each one of these.
But like if they were to go to Ibn Hisham or the CIRA,
much of this
places.
is Al-Bukhari, Al-Tabari refers to these guys. In every case, depending which one you want up there.
Right.
Seth and Adam and Eve, you can get that one right there in chapter 7 of the Quran. You don't have to go to the traditions for that one. Seth and Ishmael and Noah and Hud and Saleh, the Queen of Sheba, that comes from chapter
I just wanted to
27.
bring it up there, yeah.
So it's chapter 27 of the Quran. But other ones would all be from the traditions. And of course, around about 300 prophets that are referred to in the traditions that say that they were buried. Now remember, when you die, you are buried within 24 hours.
Right.
So if you're living there and you die there, that's where you're buried. And so sometimes it's implied, sometimes it's viewed. What the important point is, they are all die there. Here's what's interesting. Some of the traditions even say that they are buried kneeling in Mecca. Now, I don't have it on the slide here. We do have the reference for that as well. In fact, we have 3 references for that.
Yeah, I think you and I did talk about that at some point.
So you've got a problem here. If they were buried in a kneeling position, and the traditions say the reason they were buried in a kneeling position is because they continue to pray even after death, which means they are preserved.
Right.
Their bodies would still be preserved.
Yeah.
If that is the case, let's take a look at what Mecca looks like today. When you look at Mecca, you notice, see those pictures going up there? Those are the skyscrapers that are being built as we speak. You can see the clock tower there. That's the 4th highest building in the world. Look at all the cranes. They're building up 62 of these skyscrapers to accommodate the pilgrims to come. They're building them all around the Kaaba. You can see the one on the top upper right. If you can see it very clearly, it mentions there that Khadija's house was destroyed to make room for these skyscrapers. It also mentions that the place where Muhammad grew up has been destroyed to accommodate all these pilgrims that are coming there. Now, when you build large buildings like that, what's the first thing you do? You have to build large foundations, don't you?
That's right.
Deep
and you will
foundations.
discover any artifacts if they exist, of course.
In fact, anytime there's an ancient city, in London we had that problem where you go to Athens, you go to any of the archaic cities that are in Europe or anywhere in the Middle East, whenever there are building projects, the archaeologists show up. Because as you're digging down for the foundations, you're coming across a lot of artifacts. The archaeologists want to know of these artifacts. You give them the artifacts and they recreate the history of the city through the different layers by piecing these artifacts together. And the same thing is in Mecca. I remember Dan Gibson in one of his episodes, he talked about this. He was in Dubai at a conference there for archaeologists, because he's an archaeologist, and he purposely sat at the table where the Saudi Arabians were, the archaeologists. He could speak Arabic fluently, so he talked to them and mentioned about them. He said, well, listen, all these buildings that are being built there, they have deep foundations. You must be licking your lips. You're probably getting all kinds of artifacts. And they kind of looked at their feet. They didn't want to respond. He said, well, what are you finding? They finally admitted that the oldest material that they've come across are ruins to an Ottoman fort. Now, the Ottomans didn't come to power until the 1300s.
That's right. Yeah,
that's the 14th century AD.
Yeah.
If it's an Ottoman fort, that's very recent. There's nothing that would go back to. Let's go back to the slide again. There's nothing there from Adam or Eve or Seth or Ishmael, because if you're digging, you're going to find their bodies. Where is there even one body that's been found? Not one body has been found.
Yet Petra would have a lot of archaeological finds. Jerusalem will have a lot of archaeological finds. Damascus will have a lot of archaeological finds that will date way back. How come Mecca doesn't?
The oldest city in history, and
That's
they can't
right.
find a thing.
That's right.
Now, let's just end with this. When you look up there, this is embarrassing and suggests that the Quran and the tradition did not know their history very well. They should not have chosen Mecca, is basically what we're saying, because it doesn't have any history. If it doesn't have any history, for heaven's sakes, don't put it up there. Now, while we're on this, let's just go to the next slide, and let me just go up to the slides again. If you could put that back up on the screen. Let's then go to number 10, and this is the qibla itself. This is, again, back to Dan Gibson's research. He has done the research on all of these. I'm putting them up there. You see them one after another. Boom, 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 boom. Those are all the qiblas from as far away. The one in Guangzhou, China, I'm putting a question mark on it, because there is some debate as to whether or not that one is accurate. But all the other ones in India, let's just put them up there. Show
And
what we know.
it's found in his book called Qiblas.
This is the qibla. Yeah, the qibla has changed. You can see it in 2017. He came out with that. So you have in Syria, you have in Israel, you have in Egypt, you have in Jordan, you have in Arabia, as far away as India. All of these qiblas, they're all facing up until 706. Remember, that's beginning of the 8th century. Every qibla that you see there is facing Petra. We're now suggesting some of them could be also facing Jerusalem. So that's the newest material that we're coming across. But notice, not one of them is facing Mecca. You notice that?
Yeah.
Not one of them. Yet all the qiblas should have been facing Mecca from 624 on, because according to the traditions, it was at Mecca. Mecca got chosen as, according to chapter 2 of the Qur'an, in 145 to 149, the qibla was redirected from Jerusalem back down to the Masjid al-Haram. And every Muslim knows that the Masjid al-Haram is Mecca. That's what they claim. Obviously, if that were the case, why is it none of these mosques are facing there then?
That is true. And back then, the Bedouins and the travelers, they used stars and other means to really pinpoint exact directions. So they were astute when it comes to that.
So this confronts chapter 2, verse 145, in chapter 2, verse 145, 45, up until 150. Obviously, the Quran has a real problem here, and that's why when you're looking at the Quran, it is full of this historical anachronism. If this was the case, then we should see at least one qibla at the time of Muhammad's life. Remember, he was one that instituted it. Came while he was there living. It came while Muhammad, supposedly, according to the Quran, was there to receive the Quran. Therefore, it had to have been there before 632 when he died, if the Quran is correct. Internally speaking, all of these qiblas should be facing there by the time he dies in 632. All the way up until 706, we can't find one qibla that is facing that far south. Let's just go back to the slide and let's just end with this. So this is the conclusion. So either those who wrote the Quran fudged their dates, or they never knew when this mosque were really built, or perhaps Mecca did not even exist that early. So that could be it. So you can see, internally speaking, that also dovetails with the external critique material that we're coming to. It looks like the Quran has a real error here. This is another glaring historical error.
Absolutely. And not to mention, of course, that Mecca in and of itself by name was mentioned correctly one time. And if one had the second, reference in chapter 3 of the Quran, verse 96, it was mentioned by the wrong name, Becca. But all that to say, even the references in chapter 2 about the change of the direction of the Qibla never mentioned Jerusalem by name, never mentioned Mecca by name, so use your own imagination. And that's why we are going through this video series. And next time, guess what? We will be talking yet about another historical anachronism. So no difference whatsoever. They just keep piling up. Until next one, have a blessed day. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And ring the bell so you will be notified when we release new content. Our mission is to reach Muslims with the gospel of Jesus Christ and help Christians engage with their Muslim neighbors. If you want to join us in this life-changing work, please support us on patreon.com/CIRA International, or just click on the link below.